All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, happy to be back.
So this time we're diving into a single source. It's a pretty dense excerpt about strategy and power dynamics. And there's one idea that really jumped out at me, and it's all about, it says to make other people come to you.
Right.
Which sounds kind of counterintuitive, right?
Uh-huh.
Almost like setting a trap.
Yeah. When I first read that, it reminded me of that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a strategic element to it, but it's not about manipulation necessarily. It's more about...
But using it almost defensively.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. It's about control, really. If you can make your opponent or really anyone react first, then you're already one step ahead.
Right. Because then they're on your terms.
Exactly. You're dictating the terms of engagement. You're setting the pace. Instead of being reactive, you're proactive.
And the excerpt goes on to say that one way to do this is by using bait.
Right. Strategic bait?
What does that even mean?
Well, it's kind of like, I guess the best analogy would be something like chess. You're not just going to move your pieces randomly. You're thinking a few steps ahead. You're trying to anticipate your opponent's moves, and then you're using your pieces to kind of lure them into a trap. Or like a well-placed pawn sacrifice to set up a bigger attack.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's not about deception exactly. More like strategic maneuvering.
Right. It's about understanding what the other side truly desires and then using that to your advantage. The excerpt uses the phrase, fabulous games. Like, what would be so irresistible that someone would completely abandon their own strategy and walk right into yours?
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. It's like figuring out what really motivates the other person. What are their goals, their dreams, their fears?
Exactly. And once you know that, you can start to craft your bait accordingly. So for a business person, it might be the promise of a lucrative deal. Or for a politician, it might be, appealing to their base or something like that.
Right. So it's about leverage. Using what you know about someone to influence their actions.
Yeah. And the excerpt is careful to point out that this isn't about, just sitting back and waiting for people to come to you. It's not passive. It's still about taking action.
Oh, so there's a balance.
Right. It's a delicate dance between attraction and decisive action. Like you're creating this pull, this magnetic force that draws people in, but you're also ready to pounce when the time is right.
I get it. It's not enough to just set the bait. You have to be ready to reel them in.
Exactly. And that's where the real skill comes in, knowing when to make your move.
Yeah.
So I think for our listeners, the big takeaway here is that understanding this concept of making people come to you can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
In any situation where you're trying to exert influence, whether it's at work or in your personal relationships or even just, negotiating with your kids.
I like that.
Think about how you can structure the situation to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. Think a few steps ahead.
Exactly.
Well, I got to say, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah, I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
And I think it's so fascinating how these ideas about strategy and power dynamics can really apply to any area of life.
For sure. And for our listeners out there, I want to leave you with this. How can you use this concept of bait in a way that's ethical and beneficial? I mean, think about it. What are some things you can offer in your own life that would genuinely benefit others while also helping you achieve your goals? It's about finding that win-win scenario. That's something to ponder as we sign off for today.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thought. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
See you next time.